Welcome to it. I'm Richard Price, CEO of, and today, well, I've got a real thinker of a paper for you. We're going to explore a study by Parla Bellisan called The Silicon Sentinel, Computational Architectures of Climate Consensus and the Physics of Sustainability. So, buckle up, because this one's a fascinating ride through climate science, software engineering, and a whole new way to think about truth and consensus in our tech-powered world. Let's start with the big question Bellisan's paper sets out to tackle. What is the actual technical foundation underneath the so-called 97% consensus about human-caused climate change? And hey, why should you even care about the way scientific consensus gets? The stakes are huge. Think global policies, insurance risk, maybe whether you have to buy flood shoes next year. But beneath all those headlines about consensus, what's happening in the actual code? The underlying data streams, the computer models that scientists use to make sense of our rapidly changing planet. That's what this paper asks, and man, it really gets into the weeds. Honestly, I got so lost in one footnote about floating point math that, wait, where was I going with that? Oh right, the core idea. So why is this significant? Well, your life, my life, kind of everyone's life is shaped by climate data in ways we might not even notice. Insurance rates, crop yields, electric bills, even city planning, these all depend eventually on the reliability and accuracy of planetary simulations and climate forecasts. If the technical machinery underneath is wobbly, our trust in climate projections is wobbly, and that's a big deal. Let's break down some of Bellisan's major findings and arguments. The paper starts by revisiting the roots of the 97% consensus, which you may have seen in news headlines. That number didn't come from vibes. It came from sifting through thousands of climate science papers and rating, basically, whether they support the idea that humans are warming the planet. Bellisan describes not just the headline result, but the actual machine, like the bibliometric analysis, the rating scales, and, the realization that if most papers don't state the obvious, maybe it's actually become basic background, not a lack of agreement. That's something you can see in any mature science field, by the way. Nobody in chemistry papers opens with oxygen exists anymore. Here's where things get wild. Bellisan dives into the Earth system modeling framework. This is essentially the grand software factory behind modern climate forecasting. Not just a program, but a way to stitch together a bunch of different models. Oceans, atmosphere, sea ice, land, each with its own physics, its own code, sometimes its own decimal quirks. The point is, these aren't just estimates. They're monumental software engineering projects. But wait for it, there's a twist. Today, as computers become more powerful and more diverse, think megacore CPUs, specialized chips, and of course GPUs, Bellisan warns that we're smack in the middle of a reproducibility crisis. You can run the same program on two different supercomputers and get slightly different answers. For chaotic systems like weather, even a teensy difference 10 decimals deep can snowball into totally different outcomes. That's like if you rewatched a movie and the ending changed the third time. It's not just academic intrigue, it's a real concern if we want robust forecasts. Then there's the battle between traditional physics models and cutting-edge machine learning. Like, should you trust a neural net to predict droughts or stick with good old fluid dynamics? Bellisan finds that for some things, plain models actually beat the fanciest AI, especially when it comes to predicting long-term trends. Overconfidence in black box AI, the paper argues, is risky. And, sometimes the model just needs to say, I don't know. Kind of like when you ask a friend for dinner plans and they just freeze up. All right, now here's a shocker. Did you know running all these climate simulations takes so much electricity that by 2025, all the computer crunching might rival airline emissions? No joke, green software engineering is becoming a thing that means writing code carefully, using servers where the grid is cleanest, and actually tracking carbon emissions. In your software choices, want to lower your own digital footprint? Consider what you run and where. Bellisan even mentions programming language efficiency. Yeah, turns out Python, the darling of data science, is nowhere near as eco-friendly as C++ or Rust. Maybe delete an unused Chrome tab as a symbolic start, and, okay, a little digression. This whole business about blockchain and sensors and climate justice made me think of my own coffee habits. Like, am I optimizing my morning caffeine the way researchers optimize satellite data streams? Is there a green way to make coffee more sustainable? Maybe blockchain for beans? Anyway, lost that train of thought, sorry. But to bring us back, Bellisan closes with a pretty powerful point. The consensus is more than a number. It's the entire techno-social process behind the scenes, ensuring clean, unbiased code and representative data means fairer, more accurate projections for everyone, especially those in regions that have the least scientific infrastructure and are most at risk. So what does this mean for you? Well, these academic debates shape policies, products, what you read in the news, and every math tweak or software improvement is really about building a future we can trust. But remember, I'm just presenting this work. I'm not endorsing Bellisan's arguments. Research isn't absolute. It's another lens we can use. And sometimes even those lenses need a good wipe. Stay curious, ask hard questions, and don't be afraid to dig into the why behind every expert headline. This has been In Depth, Richard Price. See you next time.